and welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA television, reaching you from the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. I am Deborah Ezeh. We begin from Nigeria. Some concerned Fulanis have raised the alarm over growing insecurity across the country, saying the situation was capable of undermining the sovereignty of the Nigerian state, if not altered immediately. The patriotic Nigerians said the northern region of the country is the worst hit, as facts on the ground show that the zone is contending with terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling, and other violent tendencies. The group, which operates under the aegis of the Coalition of Full-Bay Professionals in Africa, lamented the fact that farmers in most parts of the north are not able to access their farms for fear of being killed. In a statement signed Saturday by Professor Mohamed Gidado, National President, and Ajia Mario Mobido, National Secretary, disclosed that even in some areas where farmers are allowed to go to the field, they are made to pay some levies by terrorist elements who have constituted themselves into local authorities. As a way out of the situation, the Fulani group has called for the immediate overhauling of the national security architecture to guarantee security, peace, and public safety. And now moving on, the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service yesterday rescued 9 victims from a sinking building at Mende, Maryland, Lagos. The yet-to-be-identified persons were trapped when a story building in the Maryland area of Lagos sank due to torrential rainfall. Coordinator, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Southwest Ibrahim Farinloye, who confirmed the development in a statement, said the agency's officials were deployed to rescue the victims after receiving a distress call. The torrential rainfall, which lasted for about 4 hours in the early hours of the day, flooded lots of communities in Lagos State. The NEMA advanced team, upon close observations, called for more reinforcement of personnel. Farinloye said while speaking with one of the trapped victims, One Blessings, she said there were up to 9 people, mostly women, who were trapped when the building started sinking after being submerged. He said the landlord of the building had used a ladder to escape, while NEMA questioned him for failure to contact emergency responders before someone from one of the trapped victims' office contacted NEMA. Away from Nigeria, quarrels over debate and anger on Monday, the 14th Assembly of Senegal convened for the first time since July election. Tensions was high and MPs highly strung. Per the agenda, the 165 members of parliament were to elect their president. However, the assembly failed to reach an agreement on electoral process so much so that the deputies of the opposition and the presidential camp came to blows and the police were called. Eventually, Amadou Mamad Diop, a member of the ruling coalition, who was elected. The vote was boycotted by the main opposition parties, Yewi Askanwi and Walu Senegal, which failed to name a single candidate. The two parties struck a blow against the ruling coalition during the last election, winning 80 seats to force the President Benubok Yaka coalition to look for allies to keep its absolute majority. MPs are elected for a 5-year period, and this time, more than 44% of seats are held by women, the biggest share in West Africa. Meanwhile, the death toll from a migrant shipwreck off Tunisia last week has risen to 12, Tunisia's Ministry of Interior said on Monday. A total of 37 migrants, all of Tunisian nationality, were involved in this attempt to illegally reach the Italian coast from the region of Sfax, that is central to east, according to a security official. Their makeshift boats capsized during the night of 6 to 7 September off Madia, a coastal town in central eastern Tunisia. The 6 new bodies recovered on Sunday, according to the Ministry of Interior, are in addition to 6 others already found on Thursday. 14 other migrants were rescued, according to authorities. Still on the African scene, the Tanzanian government has warned against the dissemination of online messages and short videos promoting same-sex relationships. It has also warned that it will take action against administrators of social media groups whose members share pro-LGBT messages. Information Minister Nape Nnauye made remarks at a press conference Sunday at the Tanzanian Communication Authority's headquarters in Dar es Salaam. The minister further said that some people were using content related to cartoons popular among children to promote same-sex relationships, adding that the government would not tolerate anyone popularizing acts that go against the established tradition in Tanzania. Before we start investigating and arresting the perpetrators who send, produce, and distribute this content, it is better now that Tanzanians refrain from it, he said. We go on a short break now, and when we come back, it's updates making the rounds on the foreign scene. Stay with me. And now welcome back on to the foreign scene. Queen Elizabeth's coffin was flown to London on Tuesday at the end of 24 hours of lying at rest in the historic cathedral, where a son, King Charles, and his 3 siblings held a silent vigil. Charles was joined by his sister Anne and brothers Andrew and Edward for the 10-minute vigil on Monday at St. Giles Cathedral, where they stood heads bowed at the 4 sides of the coffin, while members of the public field passed to pay their respect. While a bagpipe lament has been the only sound as executed soldiers bore the caskets earlier in the day, the 4 royals left the vigil in darkness to the sound of applause from mourners lying in the street. Elizabeth died on Thursday in an holiday home at Balmoral in the Scottish Highlands at the age of 96, after a 70-year reign plunged the nation into mourning. Charles, who is 73, who automatically became King of the United Kingdom, and 14 other realms, including Australia, Canada, Jamaica, and New Zealand, is traveling to the 4 parts of the United Kingdom before the funeral and will visit Northern Ireland. Now, tens of thousands of mourners have turned out in Scotland, with deep crowds gathering from early hours to observe the processions. In London, huge numbers of people have left flowers and messages in the grounds of royal parks. Members of the public will be allowed to process past the coffin, which will be covered by the royal standard flag with sovereign ORB and scepter placed on top for 24 hours a day until the morning of the funeral. Members of the public will be allowed to process past the coffin, which will be covered by the royal standard flag with sovereign's orb and scepter placed on top for 24 hours a day until the morning of the funeral. And now moving on, a New Zealand group representing survivors of child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church has called on Pope Francis to intervene in the redress process, claiming that church authorities were mishandling it and re-traumatizing victims. In a letter sent to the Vatican, the New Zealand chapter of Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, a global organization for child abuse victims, accused church officials in New Zealand of breaching procedures for managing abuse complaints cases. Longrost said in the letter that while publicly the leaders of the local Catholic Church extend an open hand to hope of healing, behind closed doors they traumatize survivors a second time by violating their own procedures. The letter to the Pope comes amid an ongoing public inquiry into the physical and sexual abuse at faith-based and state care institutions in New Zealand, which found in 2020 that up to 250,000 children, young people, and vulnerable adults were abused over the last few decades. Still on the foreign scene, clashes erupted between Azerbaijani and Armenian troops, Russian news agency reported early on Tuesday, in a resumption of decades-old hostilities linked to the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan, which reestablished full control over the territory in the 6-week conflict in 2020, acknowledged casualties among its forces. Armenia made no mention of losses but said clashes persisted overnight. Now, the Yerevan government said it would invoke a cooperation agreement with Russia and appeal to Russia-led security bloc, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, as well as the United Nations Security Council, Interfax reported. In addition to Russian President Vladimir Putin, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has called French President Emmanuel Macron and United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken to discuss the situation. Now, Blinken urged an immediate end to hostilities, for which each side has blamed the other. Now, up next, the updates making the rounds on the sports scene. Stay with me. And now that concludes the news update on AFRICUNIA television. Do follow all our social media platforms on Jointum, Pangram.ct, Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter in that respective order. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also link us up on www.africunia.tv to stay connected and updated to our news and other programs bulletins. Once again, I am Deborah Ezeh. Bye for now.